All eyes will be on Russian President Vladimir Putin as he takes the stage in front of world leaders today at the United Nations.
He'll also be meeting with President Obama amid rising tensions in Syria. Charlie Rose interviewed the Russian leader on 60 Minutes ahead of his trip to the U.S. for the UN.
If you, as a leader of this country, insist that the rule of law be adhered to, if you insist that justice be done, if you, because of your power, then it could go a long way to eliminating that perception.
Well, a lot can be done, but not everyone succeeds with everything from the very start. How long did it take the democratic process to develop in the United States? Do you believe that everything is perfect now from the point of view of democracy in the United States? If everything was perfect, there wouldn't be the problem of Ferguson. There would be no abuse by the police. But our task is to see all these problems and to respond properly.
Let me ask you this. What do you think of President Obama? What's your evaluation of him?
I don't think I'm entitled to give any views regarding the president. That's up to the American people.
Do you think his activities in foreign affairs reflect a weakness?
I don't think so at all. You see, here's the thing. In any country, and in the United States, I believe this happens even more often than in any other country, foreign political factors are used for domestic political battles. There's a presidential campaign coming up, so they're playing either the Russian card or some other.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Do you think he listens to you?
Well, I think we listen to each other in a way, especially when it comes to something that doesn't go counter to our own ideas about what we should and should not do.
Do you think he considers Russia? You said you're not a superpower. He considers Russia an equal and considers you an equal, which is the way you want to be treated.
Well, you ask him. He's your president. How could I know what he thinks?
And Charlie Rose joins us now. Charlie, thanks so much for being here. That last exchange there where he laughed in response to your question before proceeding to answer it there, what did you make of his overall sort of comportment and the way that he was responding to some of your questions? He wasn't evading some of the difficult kind of topics that you brought up. He was very much owning some of the things.
And wanted to talk about them. And he did not invade anything. There was never any question. They never asked me what I wanted to ask. They never said you can't ask about anything. I mean, we went there. We asked everything we wanted to ask. He gave us plenty of time. We had more than an hour to conduct the interview, and we talked about a lot of things. He clearly wants to be back and is engaged in becoming a player, is engaged in having the world perceive Russia as an important and relevant power. He says, we're not a superpower, but we're a power. And he's right. I said, you've got nuclear weapons. That demands attention. And he said, otherwise, why would you have them? And so he wants power. He very much wants a meeting with the president, because I think he really does want to have a cooperative relationship with the United States. And he believes that together they can make a difference. Now, whether the president will respond to that and what conditions the president might have is another question. And that will be addressed in their meeting today.
A cooperative relationship, or do you think he sees Russia as a necessary counterbalance in the world to America?
Well, in some cases counterbalance, in some cases cooperation. I mean, and clearly he thinks it's important in Ukraine for Russia to have influence, because he views that what happened after the decline, after the fall of the Soviet Empire, you know, he thinks that a lot of Russians were on the other side of the border because of how borders changed in terms of the Soviet Empire. And that he feels strongly about that. And that's one of the things that drives him. He said, I respect the sovereignty of Ukraine. I do not expect, we will not put Russian troops in Ukraine. But he wants it to be a process, you know, that reflects a new reality about Ukraine.
Over the course of your interview, you also asked Vladimir Putin about the situation in Syria. Let's play some of that for our viewers.
Are you prepared to put Russian combat troops on the ground in Syria if it's necessary to defeat ISIS?
Россия не будет участвовать ни в каких
Russia will not participate in any troop operations in the territory of Syria or in any other states. Well, at least we don't plan on it right now.
Но мы думаем над тем, как
But we are considering intensifying our work with both President Assad and with our partners in other countries.
So it's interesting, Charlie, he qualified his answer there a little bit and said, well, at some point, maybe later we could do this.
Or not at this time in plans.
Yeah, and so what did he tell you in private?
Well, it's an interesting thing that happened to us. After the interview was over, he said to me, can you join me for tea? And I said, sure. And so we went into a room, and Jeff Fager was with me, and Andy Gort was with me, executive producer of 60 Minutes. Andy is a producer for 60 Minutes. And so we went in this room, and there were two other people there. A translator had come in, and his principal communications advisor, a guy named Dmitry Peskov. And he took off his jacket, sat it on the table. I took off my jacket. I'm sitting across, not knowing what he wanted or what he was going to do. He just wanted to continue the conversation. So we talked about lots of things, and we asked, can we report this? And he said, sure. And they allowed us to bring cameras in for like 45 seconds just to show the meeting. And he did say at that time, clearly, he doesn't think the president is weak. He thinks that he would like to have a good relationship with the United States. And he enlarged on that in many different ways. I think he's very interested in that. But it goes back to the point we made earlier. He wants Russia to be a player. And he thinks they ought to be a player.
But he said definitively no Russian troops in Syria.
Clearly, no Russian troops. There are no Russian troops either in Ukraine as well. But this meeting is very important to Vladimir Putin with the president. And the United States is looking at it with fresh eyes because of what he's done in Syria and what he has now said about a relationship of sharing intelligence between Russia and Iran and Iraq. And so that's very interesting developments. The interesting thing, too, is I talked to him about how the famous Quds leader, Soleimani, Qasem Soleimani, had been to Moscow. I mean, he thinks they ought to have a voice, the Iranians as well.
This seems like this is the most clarity that we've gotten from Putin about his foreign policy in a long time.
I think so. I mean, in fact, I don't know that, except that people in the intelligence community have responded by email to me saying they have seen him like this and being as open about how he feels about Russia's role and how he feels about the relationship with the United States.
Why do you think that is?
I think that he has never gotten over the idea that the Soviet Union was a huge superpower, and then after that they were not, and that he knows that they can't be, and he's not after regaining territory. He wants influence.
Very interesting.
Charlie Rose, such a fascinating look at this leader in a way that many people have not seen him before, and want to hear more about that private tea after. That's what I really want to know.
May I just say that on my PBS show tonight and tomorrow night, the entire hour and a half conversation will be on.
Oh, excellent. Can't wait to see it. Charlie Rose, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.